Bentornati, buon pomeriggio. Cominciamo il programma di questa serata. Ecco, ripeto che cosa succederà su questo palco. Più tardi in serata ci sarà la seconda parte della premiazione degli Hospitality Social Awards e soprattutto un po' di divertimento con il concerto del pomeriggio. Adesso però torniamo a lavorare. Ortensia ci ha invitati a parlare di mobile e noi quest'oggi lo facciamo con Leisman di Hotel Tonight. Un gradito ritorno per Heather.
Oh, I forgot the thing. Hold on 1 second. Oh, you have it.
I have it for your presentation.
Thanks. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I have the lucky position of being right after lunch, so I'm going to do as much as I can to keep everyone awake and from falling into a food coma. So I'm going to move around a lot. But I'm Heather Leisman. I'm Managing Director for Hotel Tonight, based in London. And just quickly before I get started, can I see a show of hands of how many of you are hoteliers? And then if you have a mobile app or mobile optimized web, can you keep your hands up? Okay, great. And then one last question, how many in the room have heard of Hotel Tonight or have it on their phone? Fantastic, great, wonderful. I was here last year and I asked the same question. Not quite as many hands went in the air, so very happy to see that. So I thought today we'd start just with a very, very quick overview, since many of you are already familiar, about who is Hotel Tonight, like why am I standing up here? And then just talk about the mobile landscape, specifically here in Europe, although I will talk about it on a global basis as well. And then as it relates to travel, because obviously everyone here has a vested interest in the travel industry, so how is mobile changing travel? And then quickly ending up with some quick tips. Many of you already are sort of down the path of your mobile strategy, but there are some pitfalls that hopefully I can help you overcome. So let's get right into it. So Hotel Tonight. So we were a pioneer in the mobile space. We were the very first booking solution to be built from the ground up for travel. And the idea was really simple. It was that we saw that customers were moving more and more on the go and using their phones for many more things. And there weren't a lot of solutions out in the marketplace that helped people when you're working on your phone. So the solutions on your phone were pretty much subpar. So we went out and built something right from the ground up, making it fast, easy, and simple. Every day at 9 a.m., we present a limited selection of hotel deals to the user, so it's very fast and easy for them to book. And the company is now about 3 years old. We've had great growth stories. So we have about 80 million in venture capital funding, USD, and loads of downloads, so about 8 million, which is more than double where we were 1 year ago. We're also very sort of beloved by both customers and partners, and the reason for that is that for customers, they know they're getting a vetted deal and a great deal out of a hotel, and a nice hotel. And for partners, we've really sort of designed the system to be flexible and easy, and a place where they can really sort of take rooms that would go unsold and sell them via the smartphone audience. So why mobile? When we sort of set up and built this from the ground up for mobile, why did we choose to do that? And I think there's really three main reasons. The first being that for same-day, hotel-only bookings, it was very obvious that the mobile phone would be the place to go. There are many times where you need a hotel room, but you don't have the time or ability to whip out your computer and do a search. Maybe you don't have Wi-Fi, et cetera, where you always have your phone on you. So that was one reason. The second was that as we looked around the space, and this was in 2010, there weren't a lot of great solutions, particularly in travel. Some companies had sort of a mobile version of their web, but it was just a shrunk down version. So nothing was mobile. There weren't a lot of mobile apps out there, and there was no mobile optimized. And third, and most importantly, we sort of saw this trend at about a year ago. So this is actually year over year is 31% for any of you very good at math. 1 billion to 1.5 is actually 50% growth. It's from the beginning of the year, and the 31% is actually year over year. But last year, at this time of year, we were at 1 billion smartphones. Now we're at 1.5 billion. That's 500 million smartphones in just 1 year. And analysts are expecting that we'll be at 10 billion smartphones by 2017. which is, I think, particularly interesting because they're also saying the population will only be 7.3 billion. So it just gives you an idea of kind of how fast and how crazy mobile is growing, particularly smartphones. Why? You know, you sort of think, what's going on with smartphones and why have they become such an indispensable part of our lives? And I think if I sort of asked everyone here to take your badge and pass it to the person next to you, you'd do it without even questioning. If I said, take your smartphone and give it to the person next to you, you probably stop for a minute and think about it. It's a very personal device. It's something you carry with you all the time. And some of these stats I just find absolutely amazing, like that 66% of people would rather give up lunch than their smartphone, which sort of, you know, when you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's putting your smartphone right there at the sort of physiological level, which is kind of amazing. When we talk about Europe, and particularly the EU5, it's no exception. And in fact, where the penetration globally is at about 21%, in the EU5, you're seeing more than double that. So the average is at 57%. And when you talk about Italy, it's no exception. It's actually the fastest growing in terms of adoption, with the number of smartphones doubling in less than 2 years. So there's about 50 million smartphone users just in Italy alone. Another interesting fact is Italians happen to be one of the most active in terms of their usage of their smartphones. So they're downloading more apps on average than the EU customer, and they're actually interacting with it to do searching and buying, et cetera. So they're very, very comfortable with their smartphones. So far more than the EU5 average customer. So who is this guy? Who is this EU5 customer? He's this big blue guy up here, obviously. And in general, he's a male. He's between the ages of 25 and 44. He has an Android device. He's visiting social networks every single day, like Facebook and Instagram. And he's very, very attached to his phone. So how does this all relate to travel? Again, you know, if we start to talk about the very, very top of the funnel with travel search, something very interesting happened this year. For the very first time, we saw a decline in the number of travel searches that originated from desktop, while travel searches originating from mobile were up almost 70%. And, you know, obviously, business travelers are driving a lot of that trend. You see sort of this steady decline over the past 3 years. But we're also seeing it on the leisure side. And I think what's really interesting is how much faster the trajectory is. So while, you know, almost 60% of business travelers are searching via their mobile phone, leisure travelers are going to catch up within a year or two. So more and more people just really relying on their mobile device to search for travel. What does it mean for money, right? That's what we all care about in m-commerce sales. So as you look at kind of global retail m-commerce sales, it's not as great a story. About 1 in 10 of every retail purchases is made on e-commerce site, on your website. And then 1 of 10 e-commerce is a mobile purchase. So it's about 1% of the total market when you're talking about all purchases on mobile. Now travel, being one of the biggest and most mature e-commerce industries, is much further along, happily. So travel sales represent about 10% of mobile today. It's expected to grow to 20% by next year and 30% by 2017. So obviously really rapid growth there. But I think when you look at just the same day hotel-only sphere, almost 70% of bookings that happen on mobile, 70% of same-day bookings are made versus your smartphone. So it's a very specific sort of use case and category. So when you look at kind of all these statistics, there's this big disconnect. We have tons of searching. We have consumers that are standing at the door, you know, doing searches and ready to buy, but they're not necessarily converting into transactions. When you look at sort of worldwide, 24% of traffic comes from a smartphone, but only 3% of hotel bookings are coming through your mobile device. And why is that, right? So these are the most common reasons stated by customers for why they are not buying, why they're not actually pulling the trigger. Slow load times, complicated search, poor navigation, I think the fourth one is a summary of the other three as well. But this creates, I think, a great opportunity, especially for those of you who are starting to plan out your strategy or think about how it's going to work for you. So I thought we'd start with a couple tips. So slow load times and how to sort of avoid those. So there's some four easy tips, I think, of how you can kind of get to the next level. The first one is, with the slow load times, is focus. So these are some of the top-rated and award-winning applications out there, mobile native applications. And when you think about them and you sort of like research them, they all can be described in just a handful of words. So they just have this laser focused on just one thing, which really helps sort of keeps the app light, it makes it easy to download, it makes it easy for the user to do what they need to do. This is definitely a case where less is more. Complicated search. It's definitely not a version like where you're taking your website and paring it down into a smaller version. You really want to keep it as easy as possible and eliminate hurdles. Pretty much every screen and every new step in the process is an opportunity for you to lose customers. So when we were designing Hotel Tonight and we looked out along the hotel landscape, most of the sort of options out there would be 100 taps and take a couple minutes to actually make a booking, whereas we built Hotel Tonight to be 3 taps and a swipe, and it takes about 8 seconds to actually accomplish a booking. Next is the navigation piece of it, so keeping it really simple. And I think these are some great examples, particularly Hotwire and Skyscanner, where Hotwire, as everyone knows, sells many, many things, but their mobile app is just specific to hotels. And Skyscanner, as you're looking for different options, they actually offer you an option where you can filter just on mobile sites. So it really sort of helps the user hone in on what they're looking for, which is really important because about 80% of people that use their smartphone are doing something else while they're using their smartphone. So attention spans are not the greatest. So you really want to make sure that you're keeping them focused and keeping them engaged with what you're doing. And last but not least, the mobile optimization piece. So unlike computers, where you may have an entire family that's using the same computer, your smartphone is very personal. It's usually a one-to-one relationship, which allows you a lot of opportunity to get personal with that individual user, which can be anything from using your geolocator to help create context. So rather than showing a ton of results, you can help pare down the results. They're all sort of related, but I think the unique features that the phone has really allows you to narrow down the search and keep the consumer more engaged. And obviously, targeted, you can send, whether it's through push notifications, whether it's directed just at that user, there's a lot more that you can do with that phone because you know so much more about the customer. Lastly, it's a multi-purpose device. So you've got photo opportunity and you've got linking to Facebook, linking to Twitter. So making sure that as you're sort of designing your strategy that you're leveraging the interconnectivity of the device is obviously very important. So that is all I have for you. Should I stay up here?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Call Luca. Where is Luca?
He's over there.
Eh?
He's behind you.
Oh, behind me. You are Luca. You should present yourself.
Hi everybody, ciao a tutti. Mi chiamo Luca Panzarella, ho 31 anni. Ho un'agenzia di sviluppo mobile, siamo metà tra Sicilia, sono palermitano, e Milano. È una...
Oh my God.
Okay.
I'm all right.
Siamo sopravvissuti anche oggi.
You're supposed to get up and say, ta-da!
It never happened in any BTO. It should happen.
I didn't push you, I
That's for
promise.
your headphones.
Thank you.
Forse perché non ero sopra la X, aspetta un attimo. Niente, poi ho uno dei nostri business si chiama App & Map ed è un'applicazione che noi diamo, è un servizio che noi offriamo per fornire app geolocalizzate a un basso costo. Allora, cara Ede, io ho preparato un po' di domande per te. Maybe you know, hear me? Can you hear me? Perfetto.
Yes, yes.
E dunque, ho letto un po' di interviste su Hotel Tonight e ho 2 o 3 domande da fare.
First of all, you want to be seated or you're okay standing?
Sorry?
As you wish.
You want to be seated or you're okay standing?
I don't mind standing.
It's
What
okay.
should you prefer?
Ok.
It's fine. It looks like a quiz. I mean, we need you to
I know.
reply to the
I
quiz.
feel like I'm on a game show, like I'm going to win a bunch of money or something.
Ok. So you can say yes or no. That's it. Quindi, sono molto curioso di sapere la differenza tra il mercato americano e quello europeo. Io so che tu, quando hai cominciato, di fatto avevi un business che andava molto bene in America e poi siete andati in Europa. Vuoi capire un po' le differenze in parte numeriche e soprattutto in termini di comportamento d'uso? Se per esempio avevate, non lo so, dei business model oppure delle case history che hanno funzionato benissimo in America e che poi invece in Europa non hanno funzionato molto.
Great question. So the answer is yes and no. So when we opened in Europe, we were dealing with a different dynamic. In the US, we were the first. There was an education process with the hoteliers for them to understand kind of what we were doing and what mobile and why it was important and how the model worked. Whereas when we opened in Europe, there were several copycats, and so it was less about educating the hoteliers because they knew of some of the other players. There were about a half a dozen throughout Europe, but it was more re-education on why, because they weren't seeing a ton of production from those players. So it was more re-educating them on our business and how we approached mobile and why we'd be successful. So that was one main challenge. On the marketing side and the customer side, I think that there were many things that we were able to leverage. We definitely, when the business founded, the whole idea was to open in Europe at some point, but we wanted to figure out and work out the kinks in the US before bringing it abroad because we knew that Europe was going to be tremendously challenging. And it has been. Luckily, there are many things about the foundation, just the marketing and the way that we acquire customers and just the general model that transferred very easily. But as we've grown, we're now at about 2.5 million downloads just in Europe.
Okay.
In a little over a year. Oh, okay. But it's also, I feel like I should be talking to Luca, but I'll talk to all you guys as well. So, building the audience was tremendously challenging. When we opened Italy in March of last year, we started with 0 customers. So with every new country, Europe is not one place. It's a collection of individual countries. And while many people think of our app as a travel app, actually about 60% of people that book on the app live within a very short proximity, so about 3-hour drive. So in every new country we're going into, we have to figure out the landscape and figure out the nuances of that country. Another thing that was very important to us was making sure that we weren't an American app that was, kind of Google translated its way into the local market. So we invested quite a bit into finding editors and finding people that understand the way that we sort of, the quirkiness and the essence and the soul of Hotel Tonight so that they could get that across to the customers as well. The goal with every country we open and every new language is to make sure that the app sounds like it's a local app. So we really want to make sure that we're adopting and customizing for the local audience in each country. That comes down to sort of the country managers that we have. So Luca, who's right here, he is a native Italian, and his team is all native Italians, and so they understand how people, think and act and the nuances of the market. So that was very, very important to us.
Quindi le chiavi sono state customizzazione, personalizzazione, traduzione e agire come locali. Ok.
Yes.
Perfetto. Quindi prima dicevi in quante città siete in Italia e soprattutto mi chiedevo quindi al tempo stesso quando è che avete lanciato in Europa e se c'è stata e come è stata attuata la strategia di lancio.
catching up.
Okay.
So we launched, the first city that we launched in was London in June of last year. The reason being, obviously, that London parallels a lot of US cities. It's the closest you can get to sort of the US, and obviously it was English speaking. So that's where we started. We opened the office, our European headquarters in London in September of last year. Today, we're in about just over 40 cities in Europe and 12 countries in Europe, which is very fast growth, but it's not as fast, as we look at the competitors that were out there. We were always quite a bit behind them, which we were fine with. And really, our strategy has been, rather than rapid expansion and covering many, many markets where we didn't have customers, we opted for a more sort of slow and deliberate approach, which means that we're really focused on not just going out and getting the supply, but making sure that at the same time we're building the demand along with it, so that it's a valuable experience for all of the partners and hotels that we're working with. So we took a strategy where we definitely chose a more deliberate growth strategy, starting in sort of the major cities in countries like France and Italy, and then building out sort of surrounding cities. So today we're in Milan, we're in Rome, we're in Venice, and we're in, that's it.
So how many cities?
Oh, Florence, sorry, Florence. Of course we're in Florence. We're in 4 cities in Italy.
Works. Here I am. We do have a question for the audience. I mean, it's Yaya, but it's the audience anyway.
Gentle question, Heather. Okay.
Yes.
Google Hotel Finder, Trip Connect, Kayak, Trivago, Meta Search.
Yes.
Everybody is doing apps on a meta search. Don't you think that either you're at the disadvantage that you're not in that space, or what would you think that meta search works for mobile? Are you going there at some stage?
It's a really good question. So I think that meta search, obviously it works. I mean, companies like Kayak, companies like Trivago, like Skyscanner, they're all doing tremendously well. I think we've taken an approach where we really feel that the on-the-go customer is willing to give up a little bit of choice for a simple and easy and sort of trusted experience. And that seems to be paying off for us. So whereas MetaSearch allows you to look through many, many, many things and sort of pulls back results, what we kind of feel, our belief is that most customers, when you're on your smartphone in this tiny little device and you've got to do something very quickly, you want to just do it as quickly as possible. And so with an app like Hotel Tonight, you get a trusted selection of hotels that have been vetted for you. You know they're top rated, that you're not going to be in a subpar neighborhood. In addition, we put a lot of energy and effort into helping hoteliers come up with a price that's right based on the inventory they have. So it's not just pulling what the price is available, but we actually take a very consultative approach to say, a hotel that has 400 rooms and 30 of them empty tonight is going to have a very different pricing structure than a 12-room bed and breakfast that has one room that they just would like to get rid of. And so we really take that consultative approach to making sure that they're priced appropriately for their needs, which ends up in a better price to the customer. So we have a team of people calling every single morning, just talking through what the hotel's needs are. I think that's a really core differentiator. It's obviously very labor intensive, but it's sort of the essence of what Hotel Tonight is.
I have a question too. Recently at the Focusrite conference, we have seen a lot of new apps coming out, let's say, that do a lot of different things to help people where they are in a location, when I'm arrived where I should be. Like, for example, it's funny, we had the video in which the first video with the Signora Hortensia, the one that started the panel, that she was talking with Siri, but we've seen app that now that can translate whatever people do. So it's a big change. The one winner in Miami was an app which is called Verbalized or something like that. I don't remember exactly the name, which was able to translate whatever a person said. is that it's a big change in mobile?
I think well, yes, it is. It's a big change. I think it's also sort of spurring this new wave of travel, right? So when you have an app that you can travel anywhere and it's going to translate, you don't have that sense of feeling lost. In addition, if you have a Google Map where you can find out where you are at any time, it takes a lot of the fear out of traveling to a new place, particularly for leisure travelers. So I think that it's really exciting from a tourism perspective what we're seeing and what the mobile device is allowing us to do. But there's tons of apps. You know, if you look at the iTunes store or the Android store, you know, they'll say it's about 800,000 apps are available today. I mean, that's a lot of apps. And I think I saw a statistic that 50 million apps are downloaded every year, but more than a quarter of them are downloaded, used once, and then either deleted or not used. So coming out with app is sort of the first step. The next is making it something that consumers want to engage with and that they're going to come back and that they're finding to be a useful part of their daily life. I think that's the big challenge for the app. And you know, there's definitely sort of two ways you can do that. One is, you know, by engaging users, and the other is by sort of acquiring customers. When you look at kind of the debate over mobile web versus mobile native, and you look at sort of hotel specific, about 93% of people that are members of loyalty programs use native apps. 73%. And about 93% of people that are non-users, non-loyal, just use search. So if you're a hotel brand and you're looking to kind of engage with your loyal customers, it's a great way to use mobile. Versus if you're not a brand and you're sort of just looking to acquire new customers, you can definitely use it to go after new customers that way.
You have other question, Luca?
Sì, avrei l'ultima domanda. Dunque, ho letto... Ok, due cose. Ho letto in alcune interviste che alcuni clienti, quindi che effettivamente poi usano l'app, che poi acquistano una notte in un albergo, voi avete fatto una ricerca, una statistica che dice che effettivamente molti di loro non sarebbero stati dei clienti, cioè non erano lì per acquistare una stanza, ma grazie alla vostra app effettivamente poi l'hanno fatto. Quindi significa quindi che state prendendo quindi un nuovo mercato che prima non c'era?
Yes, that's what we're seeing. I think that it's a mixed. We are both helping people who needed a room and had a need, and we're making it easier for them to find a room. But additionally, I think the stat you're referring to is that when surveyed, people who booked on Hotel Tonight, 60% of them said that they did not need a hotel room that day. They could have slept on someone's couch or stayed with their parents or taken a taxi or a train home. But they did not have a need for that hotel room. And I think that that's the thing that gets us most excited at Hotel Tonight is this idea of spontaneity, about sort of making travel very accessible to people and to making people more spontaneous. So obviously, you know, if you're taking a trip and you're planning to go somewhere, you know, the fact that on Hotel Tonight you have to wait till 9 o'clock in the morning on the day of to book, you can't choose your hotel. We rotate through different hotels every day. You can't choose a room category. There's a lot of reasons why it's not, if you have plans to go somewhere, it's not maybe going to be your first choice. But if you wake up in London, like we do almost every day, and it's pouring rain and cold, and you're just like, I have to get out of here, it's really nice to open up the app and see that there's places that you can go that you can afford that are great deals. So I think it creates this customer that's much more willing to be spontaneous and to experience travel. And ultimately, that, you know, if this was just about taking a customer who would have booked on booking.com or would have booked on, you know, some other channel and bringing them to Hotel Tonight, that's maybe we win, but it's not a win for everyone. Whereas, you know, being able to sort of increase the pie and increase travel and make it more accessible for people, I think is what we're aiming to do. And so far have been pretty successful.
I have one last question, which we spoke this morning with Philip Wolf, by the way, something about that. which is Hotel Tonight is the proof that if you do one thing later, even if it's something that many people already done, but you have a nice idea and you do it better than the others, you can still win. So there is always something you can do about that.
Yeah, one of the, we get asked many times, or Sam gets approached, hey, you've got this great platform, you should do flights, or you should do tickets, or you should, build a feed into this partner, etc. And the answer is, to date, I mean, who knows, maybe it will go down the line, but is no, because there are a million things that Hotel Tonight could do. And I think one of the things that has made it successful is that we choose not to. And that rather than opening ourselves up to trying to do flights and trying to do a million things, we've stayed really laser focused and true to the core of what the business is. And because of that, we are being sort of recognized as this disruptor of the incumbents in the space and the big guys. And it isn't to say that they should definitely be doing this. Like if you look at, Booking, a hugely successful company, billions of dollars in market cap, and they're selling everything. So should they be focused on same-day, mobile-only deals? Maybe, maybe not. They've got bigger fish to fry, but there is an opportunity. There are users that need a Hotel Tonight, and our goal is just to do that better than anyone else.
Okay. Signore e signori, Heather Leisman, Hotel Tonight. Grazie.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Saremo di ritorno fra un minuto. Future Brand e Paolo Iabichino su questo palco tra 5 minuti.